Mine didn't have the agenda on it. Did you have to log in? Yeah, I'm just gonna.
Call the Broken Arrow City Council meeting to order. We have invocation by Pastor Rich McNary.
Great. We can bow our heads for a word of prayer. Father God, I thank you for your love and wisdom that you freely give us. Tonight we come before you with humble hearts. May your wisdom flow upon our mayor, city council, city manager. May what's on the agenda be what's on your agenda. For I know your hand is upon our city for good and for prosperity. Please speak to the hearts of each member concerning each decision tonight, and may the peace that surpasses all understanding be evident, along with unity. Father God, I ask you to protect each city council member. May your hand of health be upon them and their families. May your will be done. May your grace abound. Proverbs 3:6 says, in all our ways acknowledge him. He will direct our paths. That's my prayer, that you would direct the paths of those who were elected by the people to serve the people of this great city of Broken Arrow. In the name of the greatest servant of them all, the government sits upon his shoulders, your dear son. Amen.
Amen.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Pastor.
He's with you.
Yes, thank you. I'm with you. All right, please. Oh, roll call. We're almost past it.
Ford.
Here.
Goody.
Here.
Parks. Gillespie.
Here.
Wimpy.
Here. Now, please stand and join Vice Mayor Gillespie for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Attention, salute, pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Are there any items to be removed from the consent agenda?
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
The motion and a second. Roll call. All right, item 7A, recognition and Gatesway Foundation for 60 years of service to the city of Broken Arrow. When we were looking at this item, I just thought, oh my gosh, it's 60 years. That's amazing. So we have a certificate of recognitions that's presented to Gatesway Foundation in recognition of the 60 years of outstanding service to the city of Broken Arrow. Christina, do you want to come up and grab it? Sure. Do you want to speak?
I would love to.
All right. Good evening, City Council leaders, members, and attendees. My name is Christina Watkins, and I'm the Director of Business Development for the Gatesway Foundation. We are so excited to announce that this is the 60th anniversary for the Gatesway Foundation. Each day, we strive to provide quality care, quality housing, and quality of life for adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities. It is an honor to be part of Helen Gates' legacy and to continue carrying on her dream that started with the birth of her son, Ronnie. As we embark on this new year, we reach a new milestone for supporting friends within the IDD community. It is with the love and support of this great city and the wonderful people of Broken Arrow that we continue to grow and thrive right here where we call home. To celebrate the 60th anniversary, with the help of city staff and officials, Gatesway is working to return the Hot Air Balloon Festival to Broken Arrow this October following the Tulsa State Fair. We will be reaching out to the community for support through sponsorships, volunteers, donations, and partnerships to make this event happen. This event will include a corporate night complete with dinner by the glow and musical entertainment. Additionally, the festival will be open to the public all day the following day. If you or your organization is interested in volunteering, we will be looking for parking attendants, gate attendants, ticket attendants, hospitality services, sanitation, ground crew for the balloons, and more. There will be vendor options available for food and retail space with sponsorship packages as well. For questions, you can contact myself by email at kwatkins@gatesway.org or visit our website at gatesway.org to submit a contact us form. Thank you for your time.
So
And thank you for this.
That was great to share all of that.
Congratulations on your 60 years, and I'm so excited that the
It's
balloon
finally
fest is
coming
coming
back.
back.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
We're gonna party.
Have any of you guys rode in a hot air balloon? Because, yeah, I
No,
did.
I haven't.
I haven't
Yeah.
either. Christine, I'll have to do that.
It was about, all the way up in the air when I realized I was in a little wicker basket. Floating above the city. And thought, oh, you
It
have to
was
come
short-
down at some
It
point.
was shortly after that I developed my fear of heights.
Yeah, so congratulations. All right, item 7B, approval of and authorization for the mayor to execute a proclamation declaring March 10th through 12th, 2023 as Oklahoma Prince Hall Shriners Day in the city of Broken Arrow. This is one of those proclamations where I have a lot of whereases, so bear with me. Curtis, we actually thought maybe you should start reading.
We were at the State of the State, and I texted the mayor and I said, I think Curtis needs to start reading ours like they do.
We'll work on that.
Yeah.
All right. From the city of Broken Arrow, whereas the Prince Hall Shriners is a charitable, benevolent, fraternal, and social organization dedicated to the welfare and extension of Prince Hall Freemasonry, and decreeing that membership in the order be confined to regular Freemasons who were members of lodges descendant from African Lodge number 459. The mission of the Prince Hall Shriners is to minister to the spiritual, intellectual, physical, emotional, and environmental needs of all the people by spreading brotherly and sisterly love throughout word and deed. Whereas steps were taken to organize temples and courts, which was since come to be known as the Desert of Oklahoma Shriners, AEAONMS, Inc. The Desert of Oklahoma Shriners headquarters is in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, which encompasses the state of Oklahoma and is presided over by our visionary and imperial duty of the Desert Noble, Paul Webb. And whereas the historic Gala Day celebration, established in 1963, celebrates 59 years in the Desert of Oklahoma Prince Hall Shriners. This historic event is hosted by Zoan Shrine Temple number 100, AEAONMS of North and South America, Inc., and Zoan Court number 61, Daughters of Imperial Council. And whereas the mayor, acting on the behalf of the citizens of this great city of Broken Arrow, takes pleasure in extending that recognition to the Oklahoma Prince Hall Shriners organization contribution to this community. And whereas the Desert of Oklahoma Zone, I don't think I'm saying that right, but Shrine Temple number 100 and Zone Court number 61 has always put the well-being of this community before their own, being a true example of Christian love and being a credit to the state, family, and the city of Broken Arrow. Now, whereas be it decreed that in the city of Broken Arrow, Oklahoma, I, Mayor Deborah Wimpy, do hereby proclaim March 10th through 12th, 2023 as Oklahoma Prince Hall Shriners Day in the city of Broken Arrow. Would you like to share any words? Okay.
Thank you very much, Mayor. This celebration that's going on in March is going to be celebrating our deputies, 61 years of serving here in the state of Oklahoma. And at the same token here, 61 years, but we only hold the celebration 59 because we was down for 2 years during COVID. So
Weren't we all?
but the thing is, we're celebrating our deputy, and we really appreciate this proclamation here.
Absolutely. Thank you. Congratulations. And thanks for all you do in the community.
Thank you.
I think we have to vote to approve.
Oh, all right.
That's what it says.
Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the proclamation.
Thank you, Lisa.
I'll
Second.
Oh, sorry.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call. All right. Item 7C, presentation and annual programming update by the Broken Arrow Genealogy Society. Michaela.
Good evening.
The Broken Arrow Genealogical Society has been a partner of the city for many years. They currently share a city-owned building with the Museum Broken Arrow, located right here in the Rose District at 400 South Main Street. As part of the multiple use agreements that we have in place, we request that each user group come once a year annually and present an organizational update. This is a great opportunity for each organization to update not only you all, but also the public about all the hard work that's being done throughout our community. So tonight you'll be hearing from Jay Yeager, who is currently the Genealogical Society board president. And she's the sweetest thing in the world.
She is, yes.
Hi, Broken Arrow friends. I am not Marmee. She is one of the few people in the world that is shorter than I am. But I know you have an equivalent. If you think Broken Arrow genealogy, you probably think Marmee Apsley. And we treasure her still. But I'll tell you a little bit about where we are now. We all had quiet time during COVID. And so we did some media upgrade, and we looked for a new image and a new way to tell the public about who we are and what we provide. And basically, that's one of the things that we've come to realize and we want to brag on. It is the fact that we are part of the hospitality of Broken Arrow. We are just at a crest of reaching out to the community. We have been library mice. We've been inside. We've, in any given year, we schedule 12 hours a week, which results in 576 hours of presence. Does the slide thing move forward? Should I expect it to? That's the one I wanted to see. Thank you. We are offering Thursday evening, since the museum is open in Thursday evening hours. We also want to offer appointments because you don't do genealogy in an hour. It takes time and it takes teaching, and that's what we're about. We're interested in tutoring people to get them to a point of independence, but we want to go through all the real steps that it takes to find out about one's family. We do research, and we've done that during this last interval. If we have email requests, we work them up seriously and we email back PDF reports. And we have worked very much on our media presence. We're still in the midst, but website, Facebook, and a Facebook blog. That is a challenge because on a low budget, you don't get the techie skills that always, not everybody knows how to get a sales presence on the media, but we will in this year. We have open quarterly meetings, usually a study topic, so we can have people jumpstart and get interested in the basis of a family story. Our community interaction, lots of our staff, we're employed.
Volunteers.
Volunteers. I have DAR, Sons of the American Revolution, Civil War affiliations, all kinds of things that make it possible to reach out in a very specific kind of way. This is a meeting we held in December, and this was actually launching and relaunching Children of the American Revolution. And we crammed parents and kids and everybody of the interested parties, 22 people inside the library. And it's one of the outreaches that we would like to foster. We have already been busy in terms of historical research. The museum obviously works at places and history of Broken Arrow. We work in terms of people history. Anybody from anywhere, basically, although I do confine it to the oceans, to the shores of the U.S. It is primarily United States genealogy, but we're willing to pick up the questions and go as far as people want to go. involving the community and Broken Arrow overlapping their history. Two special events occurred this last year. One had to do with the Daughters of American Revolution. We have a national database that's held in Washington and available throughout the states, Women in American History. And Mildred Childers was recognized, and Betty Gerber was recognized. And to do that, we do individual history and we do the importance of that person in their local community. So Broken Arrow came up a lot this year. A second kind of group are the veterans affiliations. A man came in early in the year and he said, we want to know about all the Childers brothers that were in World War II. That's how the questions come to us. He said, we want to do a medal that we present through the American Legion and the Royal British Legion. We're doing plaque and ceremonies for the Childers family. We did the research, produced an 8-page report on the Childers brothers, the sons of Ellis Childers. And as you know, the homestead, the little cabin, is on the second floor of the museum. And in doing that research, we found that 4 of the brothers were servicemen, and we were able to identify. And of course, Ernest Childers is one of those Medal of Honor recipient. But each of the brothers had a pivotal role for their family and for the younger generation coming up through. There is a last slide. Could we go to that? Because this is the event that was held at the Ernest Childers Clinic. And those are the members of the Childers family. Owen Childers' son, and each of the Dale and Dennis, Elaine Childers, all of them were of that generation. And the Royal British Legion is a mystery, isn't it? Because here we are in Oklahoma, but it was very much a active training center and veterans group that's focused in Miami, Oklahoma. So they are the ones that came along, but they involved the Tulsa American Legion. And then this ceremony involved the clinic staff, the family, and further Legion participants. So that's how we reach out. We don't expect to achieve everybody's family history or the exact question that they have, but we'll give it a try. So come by and see us. Bring your
And
questions.
it's free for people, or like residents, to go and see you all, right?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely free.
Well, thank you for sharing today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Item 8 is citizens' opportunity to address the council. There is none. Item 9A, general council business. Consideration, discussion, and possible approval of award of the lowest responsible bid to Junior and Company, Inc., and approval of and authorized execution of a construction contract to replace the roof for the Bass Pro Shop. Charlie Bright.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members. I'm happy to present the award of the roof replacement for Bass Pro tonight to you guys. It's not a sexy or exciting project compared to a lot of things I get to bring to you guys, but it is very important. As soon as this passed on the fiscal year budget, 2023 fiscal year budget, city manager reached out to Ryan Bays, myself, and said, how fast can you guys get this done? Because, it's important to be a good partner to Bass Pro, A, but to protect the asset of the public. We worked with Bass Pro. We actually tried to get this done a few months ago, but we worked with Bass Pro and they insisted, rightfully so, that we waited and award this project right after the holidays, because obviously they wanted to get through the Christmas season and return season and everything else before we got it. So here we are today. The building itself is about 20 years old, so I can't remember the exact year it was built, but it's right at 20 years old. It's the original roof on the building, and it's reached its effective end of its lifespan. Ryan Bays would tell you we get a lot of service calls there. It's leaking a lot, and so it's time. Now's the right time for us to award it. We advertised the project twice, starting in November 23rd, and November 30th. We received bids last month on January 10th. We received 7 bids. We broke it up into 2 different sections the way we bid it. Because the Bass Pro's actually got 2 different roof types. It has a flat roof that's a TPO roof, and then it has a high angled roof that is the green shingles that you see that you kind of recognize with Bass Pro. The reason we broke it up is we were very concerned about funding, and we weren't sure we were going to have enough money in today's market because the market kept going up. But we were happily and excited to see that we actually got really good bids. So we think we can afford to award both projects for approximately the amount of money that was budgeted in fiscal year 2023. So we are recommending award to JR and Company for Schedule 1 and Schedule 5, which is both of the roofs. I'm happy to answer any questions you guys might have.
So that would be the total roof?
Yes, it will be both the TPO roof and the shingled roof. You could see on the estimate that architect's estimate was a lot higher than what our low bid was, and that's why we broke it up. In today's market, ever since COVID, it is so hard to predict what these costs are going to come in as. So our consultant was being very conservative because they were concerned, and fortunately, we hit it at a good time. We got good prices.
So to be clear, you're asking us, we're doing the low slope membrane roof replacement and a high slope, your recommendation, and the high slope asphalt shingle replacement with the 20-year warranty?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
And recommending JR and Company.
Correct. You will probably, if that's where you're getting, we did have a lower bidder on the bid tabs. We went through the due diligence that we do after award. We determined that bidder did not meet the requirements that we set in the standards for how qualified they need to be for the work. And so we're not recommending we go with the lowest. We're going with the second low.
That makes sense. I make a motion to award the lowest responsible bid to JR and Company, Inc., and approve and authorize execution of the contract therewith.
A second.
I have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Charlie. Item 9B, consideration, discussion, and possible approval of award of the lowest responsible bid to Cherokee Pride Construction and approve of and authorize execution of a construction contract for 37th Street pavement reconstruction from Houston Street to Kenosha. Ethan Edwards.
Good evening, Council. Mr. Spurgeon. The item before you is for the award, like you said, of the 37th Street widening project from Houston, 81st Street to Kenosha for approximately $3.13 million. A total of 7 bids were received. Maybe that's a lucky number, man. Charlie had 7 bids too. And Cherokee Pride is the lowest responsible bidder. This project includes full depth pavement reconstruction and widening from 2 lanes to 3 lanes with curb and gutter and sidewalk. Funding sources include monies from the 2011, 2014, and 2018 GEO bond. Construction is projected to begin in April and take approximately 10 months to complete. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
I know this is an important project that council members have all heard about. One of the 2 miles that we do constantly receive concerns about, and this is not only is it going to widen the road, but also going to address the safety concern that exists in that area. So I'd recommend approval.
I make a motion to approve it. I second it.
You motioned and seconded? Yeah,
I was-
Scott was super fast.
Scott.
So we motion and a second. Roll call.
Scott actually beat me. In case you didn't see it.
This stretch of road is extremely important.
Sir.
Yes. Approved. All right, item 9C, consideration, discussion, and possible approval of and authorization to execute a letter supporting the City of Broken Arrow application for Rebuilding America Infrastructure with Sustainability and Equity, the RAISE Transportation Discretionary Grant Program. Ethan Edwards.
I'd like to say Travis is very thorough with his
Yes,
RFAs.
yes.
Good evening
No, I
again.
appreciate that.
Staff is working with WSP, who we've worked with, is a consultant that helps us with grant applications, again this year for the 2023 RAISE grant. The approach is a little different this year. We're going to request funding in the amount of up to $5 million with an 80-20 split for planning purposes. Should the city be awarded this grant the planning funds will provide the city with a stronger basis for future construction projects. Areas of focus for the planning grant would include heavily traveled corridors such as John Place and Lynn Lane, BA Expressway ramps, and a trail from Nienhuis Park to the north side of the Broken Arrow Expressway. The proposed project addresses critical federal administration ideals such as connecting communities, especially historically disadvantaged communities, as well as removal of barriers created by expressways such as the BA Expressway, which often disconnects segments of the community from each other. It also includes multimodal options and, of course, sidewalks and trails, which we know are very important to the administration as well as the city council. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have. Did you have?
Mayor, if I could. Yes, INCOG met with Mr. Spurgeon and I and discussed this planning grant. It actually incorporates not just Broken Arrow, the city of Tulsa, specifically Omaha, 51st Street, Aspen, 145th, whichever names you want to use. That location, it incorporates Wagner County. It incorporates Broken Arrow Public Schools, Union Public Schools. Rosa Parks Elementary is just right in that location. There's a healthcare benefit to the public. Tulsa is recommending this to their council for support. So along with the planning monies that Ethan talked about, you can do design. So that was big.
I'll make a motion to approve and authorize execution of the letter of support.
Thank you.
Motion and a second.
Second.
Roll call. Is there a way that
Thank
when
you.
we go to DC, that we can have something about this that we can talk about in our Joshua- packet?
Yeah, Joshua, yeah, that'd be great, because Joshua with Senator Langford's office is working on grants and such, so. he
Mhm.
could help.
Sure. Actually, I know that NLC is coming up, and so we're working on putting together a small packet for all the members of council that are going to be attending. And so when you set your meetings up, you'll be able to pass that information out.
Great.
We're going to put our open roads, our Thrive, and some additional information that I know that they'd probably like to take a look at, keep up with what's going on.
Thank you. Item 9D, consideration, discussion, and possible approval of PUD 453-2025. Ironwood, 21.8 acres. Jill, hi.
Hi, good evening, Council, Vice Mayor, Mayor, and City Manager. The item before you tonight is the PUD 453 and BAZ 452 of 2022, the Ironwood development. It's a concurrent rezoning and PUD request for a single-family residential development located west of the southwest corner of Omaha and Elm Avenue. And the property is presently zoned R1 for single-family residential and is unplatted with the exception of approximately 5.99 acres of the west central portion that's currently platted as Green Country Villa Addition, which would be replatted if the rezoning is approved. So the site, a little bit about this site, it's a little bit unique in that it has a 5 million gallon water storage tank on the east side of the property. This property, the water tank is within an easement on this property, a 200 by 235 foot easement area that is recorded and on file. So also at this site, there are 2 existing structures that have duplexes on the site, and those are requested to remain with this PUD submittal. And also part of the rezoning includes RD, and its RD was residential duplex zoning, which is only for the 2 existing duplexes that are on site. And the remaining portion is the 21.15 acres is requested to be rezoned to RS4, single family residential. So according to the PUD document that's included in the packet, Ironwood would have a maximum of 84 dwelling units proposed, and that does include the 4 existing dwelling units for duplex use. And the average lot size or lot width is 46 to 50 feet minimum for the single family residential with a minimum lot size of 5,000 square feet. Additional amenities are included, and that includes 2 proposed park or reserve areas, 1 a pocket park with off-street parking, and another north of the water tower with a trail system. A 10-foot landscape buffer is proposed along Omaha Street, which is also, it is a requirement, but with the PUD, there's a stipulation that more landscaping, medium to large trees would be provided in excess of the minimum requirement. The development is proposed to be served by private streets constructed to the City of Broken Arrow street standards, but owned and maintained by the Homeowners Association. And a little background, at least from the comprehensive plan and compatibility side, the City Council did approve a change to the comprehensive plan for the northwest portion of the property. The 4.57 acres was originally level 4, which accommodated commercial use, and it was approved to be changed to level 2 to be consistent with the remainder of the tract in October of 2022. And that was approved contingent upon the property being platted and a PUD being submitted that's similar to the draft that was provided at that time. A little bit of background of this site. It was originally part of PUD 58 Green Country Villa, as mentioned before, which was originally going to be an 80-acre planned senior housing development that didn't materialize at the time, but it also included R3 and C2 zoning. And this was back in the 80s. So with that was a subsequent filing of Green Country Villa, which is on site now where the duplexes are. Since that time, there has been an abandonment, abrogation of PUD 58 and a rezoning of BAZ 1406 reverted the zoning back to R1, which is currently what it is today. And that was in 2000. So in your packet, you'll have a summary of the deviation. The PUD is laid out where it has the development requirements for the single family portion, the majority of the site, and then also the duplex portion of the site. That includes what the zoning requirement is and any change that's being requested. And with the existing duplexes, there are existing conditions with those that don't meet current code. Just as an example, the front setback is approximately 8 feet on one of the structures. And so that's being provided for in this PUD document is to make that allowed just for the existing duplexes. In the meeting held on January 12th with Planning Commission recommended approval with a 5-0 vote per staff recommendation, and staff recommended approval subject to the property being platted. And that with the approval of this PUD and rezoning, that BAZ 1406 shall be abrogated. During the meeting, no one spoke in favor of or in opposition to the item. However, after the meeting, one neighboring resident was there and wanted to speak, but had not completed the request to speak form before the meeting began. So I know that we want to make sure to place this on general business in case that person would like to speak. And we always make an announcement at Planning Commission that this item will be heard again at City Council in case there was anything that wanted to be said, could be said at that time. And I know the applicant's here, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
The streets are going to be private?
Yes.
I mean, and so that the homeowners will have to maintain that. Are they going to be gated, or they're just keeping them private? And do you know what's the reason behind that?
So at this time, there's not a statement in here that they will be
I noticed that. I was
100%
confused,
gated. So what was explained, the applicant explained at Planning Commission, is that the intent is just to have more control, have the homeowners be able to have that option potentially to gate it. But they wanted to be able to have the option to privately maintain the streets. It's definitely, as you know, not a requirement of ours. It's something that the applicant had requested.
And the only question, and I proposed, I mean, you got back with me on it, is just that on the southern, and I've been contacted by a couple of homeowners, and on the south portion where the housing abuts, so where it abuts the reserve at Battle Creek.
Yes.
The lots are just much more narrow. And so some of the yards, like at the reserve at Battle Creek, their yards that back up, they might have, I mean, on the picture, it shows they could have like up to like 3 lots backing up to their one fence line. And so that was their concern, is that it wasn't like the same type of property, and it's going to be
lining up
strange to have 3 different yards lining up with their yard. And so they wanted to know if there was a possibility they would consider having wider lots for those homes, for those duplexes, on just those ones that, are on the south end.
And that's something that, and I'm sure the applicant can speak on that, that's something that was discussed at pre-development meeting stage when there was interest in the 46-foot wide lots is encouraging. And I know the developer was in favor of widening it from the minimum from 46. And the preliminary plat that has been submitted on this shows that at 52 feet, but the PUD, as you know, it says 50 on the south side where it abuts the reserve.
Right.
So for the subdivision to the south reserve, the minimum frontage is 60 feet. And so you have those cul-de-sacs, which makes those long backyards for
Right.
some of the ones on the east and west end. So those are definitely where you're going to see those where that person might have more than 1, 2, possibly 3 properties behind it because of that wide yard.
Yeah. So the answer is no, they wouldn't. I guess we
do
can
wanna
answer.
go through that.
The
Yeah,
applicant
okay.
can tell
Yes.
us.
The applicant wants to.
Good evening, counselors. And Jill did a fantastic job. And so if you don't mind, I'll just get right to the question that was
Yeah,
asked.
absolutely.
We did consider that because there's been, that question's been raised before in planning, well, in this forum, actually. And that's why we wanted to make the lots wider down on the south end. Overall, this is a smaller lot subdivision by design. The private streets are a part of an overall concept that is to market towards a type of home buyer who is looking for a higher end but smaller lot that's easier to maintain, willing to pay a little bit more in HOA fees. You'll note on the top of this that there's the fence is going to be wooden masonry. There's going to be a little bit more expensive exterior fence.
Okay.
But as it relates to the lot question, anticipating this, because I've seen this before, could you put this up there?
And I like the development.
Sure,
I
I
think
get
it's
it.
a
And
great.
so the question, which I get, when you go from nothing's there to having lots back there is, well, what, I'm gonna have divided lots. And so when this comes up, you'll see.
Is there?
Can you go down, zoom out a little bit where you can see the orange? So that's the plat of the Reserve of Battle Creek. So that plat establishes how big those lots are. I don't know what the fences look like, but those are the lot sizes. Where all those lines are where lots break over multiple lots, and you're looking at different backyards. There's 65 lots in that subdivision that have that same concept. When what we're talking about is the ones that abut the north end right there. And the ones that have the most lots are those corner lots that are at the corner sides that have those big long
Can we
backyards.
push that
And
up so you could see?
it's a
ones that-
phenomenon that occurs in every single subdivision. For some people that are abutting vacant land, they don't appreciate that a lot of other people in their neighborhood have that phenomenon going on currently.
Well, and it might, I know that sometimes the picture, like whenever there's a conceptual drawing, it
right.
isn't, because it showed, like, there was a couple in where there were 3 lots behind one house. So I'm asking the question that I
Sure,
was
and I
asked,
think
so.
here it may actually, that may actually happen in some places existing already in the subdivision for these corner lots where they're on these little cul-de-sacs. I mean, here, to me, it looks like you might have 3 backyards right here that touch this lot right here where the block 5, block 2 is.
Okay.
So it's an existing phenomenon in Broken Arrow and every place where there is relatively new subdivisions and maybe even older subdivisions, because it's very difficult to sync up planning of subdivisions that are
Right.
when you're
Yeah.
trying to, and frankly, it's a lot of the way subdivisions are planned is a business decision. You're
Right.
trying to figure out the best way to make it cost effective and efficient.
Good point.
My neighborhood was developed in the late 90s, and
Yeah.
the neighborhood to the north of us was developed in the 70s.
Mhm.
And the lots.
Different.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and there's cul-de-sacs, so
Yeah.
I don't know any way to completely.
That's exactly how my house is. I'm on the corner of a cul-de-sac and there's 2 people that.
And I have the same
Yeah.
thing. I live in the middle of Midtown Tulsa, and I have the same thing. I have 2 lots behind me.
Yeah. Okay.
So is there, and I'm just curious, I was interested when I saw that the streets were going to be private,
Yeah.
that there was no mention of gates.
Right.
Is the concept that may happen, but regardless, you feel that that's an investment?
Yes.
That encourages investment in the
The-
community to have a higher end home?
Exactly. And so we're not going to say I say we, I'm not going to say anything publicly that we're not definitely going to do. And so if something's under consideration, I'll let you know that. Gates are under consideration, But the private street request is because the developer wants to put in a higher end community and maintain control of the streets.
Nice.
You know, it means he'll always maintain the control of the
Yeah.
streets too.
Yeah.
So it is kind of unique, you know, not being a gated community. So-
Yeah, I think there's some calculated risk. I don't believe that anybody believes there's going to be a lot of phantom traffic in there. That's not just because of the way it's set up and where it's located. So,
People fly down that street.
yeah, it's a pretty good sized street.
Yeah, it is. It's a long street.
Well, it was Elm until Elm was extended.
Yeah, now it's the other Elm. Yeah.
Yeah, the other L, yeah.
Are there any other questions?
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor.
Did the citizen sign up to speak that came to the planning commission? Do we know yet? We don't have anyone to speak.
No one.
I'd make a motion to approve PUD 453-2022 and BAZ 452-2022, PUD 453-2022.
Second.
That's a lot.
I have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Thank you, Counselor.
Thank you, sir. There are no preview ordinances. We move on to item 11, ordinances. 11A, consideration, discussion, and possible adoption of ordinance number 3771, closing a portion of a utility easement from Ferguson Real Estate on property located 1/2 mile south of Albany Street, 1/8 mile east of Elm Street. Jill.
Thank you. This item before you is an item that was previewed at the last city council agenda, and property owner Ferguson Real Estate LLC did submit a request to close a portion of a water line easement or a utility easement 20 feet wide for a portion where the water line was relocated on site to accommodate the expansion of their site on the Ferguson site. And so a new easement has been recorded to accommodate for relocating that. And so this is the ordinance to officially close it. And then the next step for the applicant, if approved, would go to district court to vacate the easement.
I make a motion to approve ordinance number 3771.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call. Item B is an emergency clause.
Move for emergency clause.
If it ever opens up.
Yep. We have a motion and a second. Roll call. Item 11C, consideration, discussion, and possible adoption of ordinance number 3772.
This ordinance relates to rezoning case BAZ 2072, which was a rezoning case for CG Commercial General, Commercial Heavy, and R1 Single Family Residential to CN Commercial Neighborhood with PUD 321. Is approved by City Council on February 2nd, 2021. The property has been platted, so it's met the conditions of being able to change the zoning map. And this is actually the site of the Broken Arrow Senior Citizens Activity Center. And so with the final plat being recorded, this ordinance is on the agenda to officially change the zoning map to the approved rezoning request.
Make a motion to approve ordinance number 3772.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call. Thank you, Jill. And item D is the emergency clause.
Move for emergency clause.
Mine is too.
Hasn't come up yet.
Oh, no, yours is.
It comes up.
Mine still is,
Your vote hasn't shown it.
I haven't got a vote yet.
There it comes.
There it goes.
I think Johnny needs a new computer.
I think we all do. This is being very slow this evening.
I've noticed that as well.
His
Quite
freezes.
slow this evening.
Okay.
Put it in the budget.
Yeah.
All right. There we
Yes, sir.
All right. Item 11E, consideration, discussion, and possible adoption of ordinance number 3773, an ordinance amending Chapter 16 offenses miscellaneous, Article 1, including legislative findings, purpose and intent, definitions, penalties, repealing all ordinances to the contrary, and declaring an emergency. Trevor Dennis.
I thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members. As you may recall, 2 weeks ago, we had previewed an ordinance that updated the city's begging ordinance. we modeled it mostly on how Oklahoma City had done it. One of the things that we talked about was making sure that we customize this to address the issues that we had in Broken Arrow. The police chief and I had gotten opportunity to review some of the previous citations and calls that we'd had on this issue. And so, and then we were also able to get some feedback from the council members. And so I wanted to talk about both of those. The first off is in terms of amendments that we looked at for removal. There were two specific provisions about aggressive behavior that we removed from this final ordinance because we believe that they were duplicative, at least in terms of number 9B, and then also number 9B8 in terms of waiting in front of a building. The reason we removed both of those provisions was we just didn't have any citations that gave rise to those type of behaviors. And then in terms of the soliciting in a manner that would cause somebody to be in fear of their life, we already had a provision that addressed those assault. So we tailored it more to our city. As far as the feedback that we received, there were 3 suggested changes, 2 legislative findings, and then one was a definitional change that the vice mayor had requested just in terms of the minors. So this would clarify that when we are discussing minors, we're talking about those who are under the age of 18. That's what is defined as a minor under Oklahoma law. So those changes would be under, and please note that these suggested changes would have to be done by amendment. If you wanted to approve this, it would be to approve ordinance number 3773 as amended, because they didn't make it into the final version that was on the agenda. But you can make the amendment. But those specific amendments would be under, let's see, 16-19A 7, which would be discussing providing education services to elementary aged children, and we would add considered minors should not be allowed. And then under 9 of the same section, it would be city further finds that soliciting, begging, or panhandling of those considered minors in the state of Oklahoma, which is less than 18 years of age, subjects them to improper and undue influence. And
So it would read minors as defined by the state of Oklahoma.
yes, sir.
Okay.
And then under C2M, there's a specific prohibition on soliciting, begging, or panhandling of minors less than 16 years of age, and that would be changed from 16 to 18. So that way it would be consistent throughout the ordinance that when we're talking about minors, we're talking about those who are under the age of 18. And then the final addition that we had, which would not require an amendment because it was contained in the final version, was under the offense. We just simply noted so that citizens would know that citations that were issued under this section for actions committed outside the presence of a police officer would have to be filed by the complaining party. These are all misdemeanors that would be committed outside the presence of an officer. Obviously, if our officer sees these behaviors and it's in their presence, they could enforce it. But typically this type of activity is done outside the presence of law enforcement. And so we would have to follow that proper procedure for getting the complaining party.
So what we would vote on tonight, if we adopted this, would be what's on the page. And then you would bring an amendment for us to consider with
Or we
regard
could
to.
bring an amendment.
You could,
can we
yeah,
amend it tonight.
we
That's what I'm
could.
trying to get clarity
So
so
we could
we
do
know how to motion.
approve 3773 as amended, that as,
Your 2 options would be to approve it as amended. I believe that it would be cleaner if we were able to bring back a final version that had these changes. It would be,
Not approve anything tonight.
and then not prove anything tonight. That way it would be a clean version.
I agree with you, but I just want to make sure we were clear on what we're doing.
But you certainly, if it was the body's desire to approve it as amended, you have that option to do so as well.
I would rather table this and bring it back so we have a clean final version.
Well, I want to talk about item D though, too, because there may be another, maybe want to amend another one, but so I don't know that there's anything on here that says they can't stop traffic. Or, so like my issue is if I'm at a stop sign or stop light and someone approaches my car, like what part is the city easement? Like, is there a way we can define the city easement? Like where they like can't go from like this, say the sidewalk to the grassy area and then the street? Like, I don't want them approaching a car while the car is at a stoplight or a stop sign. Is
Right,
that
so-
somewhere in there that I didn't see?
Yes, if you look under C, under definitions, and this is on page 3, so it'd be C2 2D, aggressive manner and aggressive soliciting and begging, the definition includes intentionally blocking or interfering with the safe or free passage of a pedestrian or vehicle by any means, including unreasonably causing a pedestrian or vehicle operator to take evasive action to avoid physical contact. And so that's what, if you get in the street and you're prohibiting cars, or if you're on the sidewalk and you're prohibiting pedestrians from going by you, that by definition is considered aggressive begging.
I guess what I'm wondering, is there a way that we can make it to where they can't even enter the street?
Because if they just walk up, they're not necessarily, it's your interpretation if they're being aggressive or not.
Well, they need to be crossing in the crosswalk. If they want to enter the street, they shouldn't be coming to my
Approaching the
car if I'm not blocking a crosswalk. I guess is where I'd like to have a little more clarity. I don't want them to be able to approach, because I used to have a convertible. So people would approach me and like, you're just out there. I mean, you're just open to everything. And, you know, they may or may not be aggressive, but I just don't think they should enter the street.
Isn't that already a violation of law to enter the street that's not on the crosswalk? That's jaywalking.
Well, that is jaywalking. You
That's
have to
illegal
cross
law.
at the appropriate sections. I believe what you've described, though, if somebody's coming in and you know is going to interfere with your right of way or your ability to operate your vehicle, I believe that section would cover that.
Okay.
If
No, that's
you-
good. That's,
if
I
you
just wanted to
can't-
clarify.
If you can't get by. Now, again, we're being careful that we're not infringing on First Amendment speech rights of folks who, you know, can legally be in our right of ways, not impeding traffic, and have either, you know, begging speech or political speech, or any number of things. You know, for example, the firefighters who collect for the March of Dimes, you know, that type of activity would be
But
allowed.
they can be on the center median because we already have an ordinance that approves that. I guess my thought is I'm okay with the peddlers, beggars being on the sidewalk and maybe, you know, asking me if I want to give money while I'm in my car. I just don't want them approaching me in my car while I'm in the street.
That would be an illegal action in and of itself because they're jaywalking. They're not crossing at the proper intersection. And furthermore, if they're coming to your car and you tell them you don't want them there, they're harassing you. So I mean, it's covered.
Okay.
I believe
what I
that's
just-
accurate.
Okay. That's why I just want to make sure that it was covered. Okay.
So unless there are any other requested amendments or changes, I would recommend that you table this item, and then we can make those changes to the final version, and then we can bring it back to this body for approval.
I like the Vice Mayor's recommend. I mean, the minor's minor, so, but I would like to have it
Well,
clean.
my thought was, it's not our decision to decide who children are. I mean, I want, if my children to, I don't want anybody else to make decisions for them other than me. So,
I understand.
yeah.
I make a motion to table this item somewhere.
We do have a speaker. don't we?
Oh, do we have someone? I'm sorry. I didn't, then I'll withhold my motion.
Okay.
Ms. Rita Belding.
Hi,
Hi.
my name's Loretta Belding, and I live here in Broken Arrow. Do you need my address? Okay. All right, I wanted to talk about the begging as well and loitering. This past Sunday, when we were heading to Walmart on 145th at Aspen, there were people in the Meridian, 2 of them on each side, with a sign saying somebody needed some organ or something for donation. To me, that's a form of begging, especially when we have things on the internet that you can go to and ask for help. And I feel invaded when I'm driving down the street that businesses can't do that. You know what I'm saying? I can't do that with my garage sale signs and go out there, and I can't put them past a safety zone, which is what I call it, which is from my front yard to the street is the city property. And that's a safety zone is how I look at it. And I don't think anybody should be selling or having kids sit there with them while they're begging, because you can't even put political signs or anything out like that. And as for stepping on rights, I have rights too. I just feel like we're thinning it down too thin to everybody. I'm not saying we shouldn't do anything for the homeless. For example, on the 23rd of January, in front of Arby's, I noticed a sleeping bag with somebody in it. I called the police department, and this is at 8:15 in the morning. They've had several calls on that. And they said they did send someone up there and did approach him. He did not want any help, so they left him there. So my question is now, are we going to start having tents put up on city properties or private properties? I don't want to end up like Tulsa having to solve that problem. I think we need to solve it now. We've got churches here. We've got Broken Arrow neighbors. We've got people that want to help. But I think we need to find another way to do it. I live down where the 2 worst hotels in this city is. And I watch homeless people go in and out of there all the time. And they sleep around. They've been on our street and block. But they're not harmful. I mean, they don't do any, they're not dangerous or anything. They just need help. And I'd like to find another way that Broken Arrow can help them out. I just don't want to drive down my street. I can go live in New York if I want to or something like that. I don't want to become Tulsa or Oklahoma City where people are crossing into the meridian trying to solicit me. I just don't feel that's appropriate. And I don't think it's safe. And when you see a mother and her children out there or a father, I mean, I'm sorry. Child abuse, neglect, I'm sorry. You know, that's not considering your children. That's just, I don't like it. And I'm sorry to say that, but I think we need to look at that issue close. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rita.
Rita, when we discussed this,
Oh,
earlier, no, it's fine. When we discussed this earlier, your issues were discussed heavily. I mean, this council discussed it at great length the first time. This is the second time we've seen this ordinance. And it was discussed at great length
Okay.
about the issues you raised. There are already laws on the books that address some of the issues you raise.
But,
That this wouldn't address because it's meant to address the begging
Okay.
and ordering. But for example, the child endangerment that you are fearing, there's already statutes on the books that address that our officers and DHS can enforce now. So we are keenly aware of all that. And it's something that we're actually studying pretty closely because we are
Okay.
aware that this is a problem.
well, my concern is the guy left out there to sleep on the street
Right.
because he didn't want help. And it's right there in front of Arby's. I mean, and he's a big like orange or red bag or can't remember what. And you're like going, what is this? And I know one time 2 years ago, there was a lady on the other side of the street doing the same thing, but she was on the sidewalk. I'm sorry, it just concerns me, but
And it should.
Yeah.
I mean, it bothers me that we have that. That's a challenge we're having to address, but that we've been discussing that at length, actually.
Okay.
So thank you for visiting with us, but we've
All right.
already been, this is something we're all very concerned about already. And have-
oh, I just wanted to bring my concern as a citizen
Oh,
that
absolutely.
what I see going down the street in the city that I've chosen for the last 32 years of my life to bring my family up here and live. You know, I don't want a downtown Tulsa or Oklahoma City. I'm sorry.
We do not.
Nothing to be
I
sorry
don't
about,
think anyone
Rita.
here wants that either,
No.
I assure you.
Thank you, Rita.
All right, since we tabled it, I guess there's no,
Well, I'll make a motion.
make a motion to do. Yeah.
I'll second.
The motion and a second, roll call. And then item F was the emergency clause, but we do not need that. Remarks and inquiries by governing body members. Well, I've got some news I learned. We have Officer Peel has become a finalist for the 6th Annual Attorney General's Award for Distinguished Service in Community Policing. And from what I hear, this is a pretty big deal. Chief, would you like to come down and share a little bit about that?
So the Department of Justice has an award they give out every year. The several categories. One is innovations in community policing. Michael Peel for the Spanish CPA Citizens Police Academy was nominated. He's a finalist. So out of the entire country, there's only about 30 finalists. And so there'll be several vetting rounds. If he's chosen, an award ceremony will be in Washington, D.C. at the Department of Justice. So it's the first time that I'm aware of we've ever made a finalist for community policing. So it's a pretty big deal for him
Yeah,
and everyone that helped him out.
that is awesome. Thank you.
So-
What's really unique to about Officer Peel is he doesn't speak Spanish, but he's able to have a very successful Spanish CPA.
Yeah.
I mean, he does a great job with that.
Yes, we've had 3 iterations and they're all waiting lists to get in. It's really helped out quite a bit. It's really strengthened our relationship with our Hispanic community.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
This is a little bit of nothing, but I know that the mayor had brought this out, the Broken Arrow Tartan at the Scott Fest, Burns Night, which is celebrating the life of Robert Burns, who wrote Auld Lang Syne and a number of other poetry items, and is very celebrated by the Scottish community. They were selling not only tartan kilts and scarves and so forth, but tartan ties.
Yes.
So this is going to be all the rage and fashion for Broken Arrow gentlemen coming soon.
Yes, I got a scarf and a tartan. Or kilt.
We got to attend the State of the State yesterday.
Yes.
And that was to hear the governor start a session, and that was very exciting. And it's always fun to be a part of those and just see, everything at the very beginning, and even the protesting, that was going on at the Capitol. But that's all a part. I mean, my story when I was 12 years old is about protesting that was happening at the Capitol. And so it's those things ring in your memory. And so it's always an honor to be there for those events.
Yep. I would suggest when people go to protest, though, they actually still take the time to go
Yes.
talk to the legislators.
Yeah.
It's way more productive.
Yeah, exactly.
Instead of yelling in the rotunda.
Yeah.
Well, we all attended the Chamber Gala too, where a lot of our citizens and business leaders were recognized. And I just wanted to let the chamber know, I enjoyed that night. It was very nice.
So fun.
I think it's the best decorations I've ever seen at a gala. So good job. But it was a good evening. You all did a really good job. And I know those things don't just happen. It takes a lot of work behind the scenes that a lot of us aren't aware of. So just wanted to say that.
Absolutely.
Well, and they're point out one of our very own Farhad Daroga received
Yeah.
the chairman's award, well deserved for his
Audience.
many, many years of service.
Yes.
And so
Yes, that's
Are you going to touch on the sad news? Are you gonna mention the loss of
Mr. Dudley. Yes. Thank you, Mayor, members of council, member of the audience. And I was hoping someone from the governing body would mention the chamber gala. And I was a little concerned because as we went up and down, no one did, but thank you, Lisa. I just want to echo, I thought it was an amazing event. And Jennifer's got several of her team members here that I know were running around, making sure things went well. I just want to say thank you. All the nominees, I mean, if you look at those list of folks that were nominated for the various awards, I mean, it just demonstrates the quality of the businesses and the individuals that are out there trying to make our community better and maintain a high quality of life. And for see Farhad receive that award was truly amazing. And you hear all of the accomplishments, and it was just impressive, Farhad. So congratulations. Also, it was mentioned about the legislative sessions kicked off. I just want to let the council know that between OML and we have two members of the governing body, the vice mayor and Councilmember Ford, that are on the legislative committee. Also, CTAG is we're keeping track of a number of bills that have the city's interest. A number of those bills are not in the best interest of Oklahoma municipalities, and so we're going to be watching them closely. If anything comes to your attention, please let me know. We will try to put something out to the council members periodically about the bills that we're trying to track. I know that I hear from the vice mayor and Councilmember Ford. Every time they're having a meeting, they're emailing me the entire time with information about how a bill would potentially affect Broken Arrow. So I appreciate that. And we try to make sure that we get you that information because I know you're right in the middle of the discussion. So thank you. Also, on February 18th is our rebranded Community Services Expo. It has been for many, many years, was the Homeowners Association event that we held where we allowed the homeowner associations to come in to learn a little bit more about the services that are available. And over the last few years, I've tried to, with the help of the directors, to expand it because there's so many wonderful things that are happening in the various departments. And so this year, we made that full pivot over to a rebranding of the Community Services Expo. And I'm proud to say that there are going to be 22 sessions on 19 different topics on city operations. There's also going to be some of the forums are going to be very, very pertinent to, like the fentanyl, for example, is one that we're very excited about being able to talk about. But it's going to be from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. on the 18th at Stony Creek Conference Center. And I would encourage everyone, because all the citizens are certainly entitled to come and to participate. And also, I do have some sad news. Over the weekend, we lost Mr. Nunley, who was the sculptor that put together the sculptor for our Korean War Memorial that we will be unveiling sometime in the next couple of months. And it was very sudden. And I know on behalf of the mayor and council, I want to extend my condolences to his family. That was a tragic loss. When you see the detail of the statue of the Korean War soldier that he put together, it's going to be very emotional. We have a lot of those folks in our community that served in that war will want to be there.
Well, and he didn't just do that. He did the Ernest Children. I mean, half of the
park, yes.
Statues and memorials in town, he was instrumental in making it happen. He was nationally world renowned for his sculpting ability, and we have the honor of having many of them in Broken Arrow. And his latest venture will be, as you said, the Korean War Memorial.
And he was very thorough. He made sure several meetings that they had the Korean War people there to make sure this was right. We need to change that canteen or whatever. But he wanted to make sure it was authentic, like he did the others. So it was sad. I know he's done a great job.
It is. I appreciate all the comments, and I know all of you had a chance to see his work, and we will have a chance to honor him in the appropriate way when we do the unveiling for the sculpture and the memorial just in a couple of months. And the last thing, if I can, Mayor, I'd like to mention what's happening on February 14th. If you would indulge me, February 14th obviously is a very special day because it's Valentine's Day. It's also Election Day in Broken Arrow, and I'd like to mention that our voters are going to have the opportunity to make a decision on the renewal of the franchise agreement that we have with PSO. Just a little bit of background. The current agreement was approved by Broken Arrow voters back in 1998, and it expires in May of this year. Under the direction of the council for about the last year, the legal department and myself, led by Trevor Dennis, spent almost a year negotiating the franchise agreement as well as the accompanying ordinance that goes along with this. And I want to talk just briefly about why I think this is important, because I think we all could agree that electricity or power has become one of the most important public infrastructures that we have today. And in my career, I've always looked at the four corners of public infrastructure as your road system, your drinking water, your sanitary sewer disposal, and then your storm water. Well, I think right somewhere, I'm going to kind of move things around, electricity is right there. And since we don't provide it, we want to make sure we have a provider that is going to provide reliable, affordable power to our citizens. And when there are issues, be able to address those. And that's what we currently have with PSO. With regard to the vote, there is a question that the voters of Broken Arrow that have registered to vote will have a chance to make a determination if they would like for that agreement to be renewed for another 25 years. And I want to mention a couple of things in the agreement because I know that there's questions, and we've had a lot of informed voters. First is that in the current agreement, which expires in May, there is a 2% franchise fee that we currently collect, and that 2% generates about $2.4 million a year. And that $2.4 million a year is used as a part of the total revenue that the city generates to pay for our operating budget. And so it's a very critical piece in terms of what we use to pay for many, many different general government services. Obviously, first and foremost, public safety, police, fire, EMS, and emergency management, but also parks, community development, tourism, economic development. All the general fund services benefit from that $2.4 million. As a part of this renewal, the council has asked voters to also consider in this question an additional 1% that's going to be used for what I would term generally as economic development initiatives. And these initiatives are going to be divided into two parts. And the first part is, as a fast-growing community, we're having to widen roads, and we're also looking at restructuring certain intersections and trying to relocate the utilities that exist at those intersections. And so having a fund to be able to help with those relocations and partner with PSO is going to help us make those improvements, whether they're operational or aesthetic. It's going to help us. And secondly, is one of the things we don't have in our economic development toolbox is a fund that allows us, when there are qualified manufacturers or businesses that would like to expand their business, or if we have the opportunity to recruit high-paying manufacturing jobs like in our innovation district, or to our many other great areas of the community. Many communities have an economic development fund that allows them, if they meet the qualifications, to receive some type of assistance to help them make their decision to locate in Broken Arrow. And we feel like this is very important and would like to ask the voters' support of this, because as a fast-growing city, private sector has choices. And we're competing with other communities that have these type of funds that they're available. So this would help us do that. The additional 1% would generate a little over $1 million a year potentially. And council has said that those funds would be broken into two parts, one for right-of-way and capital improvements, about $500,000 and $600,000. And then the other would be for a fund that would be available to the city administration and our Economic Development Corporation to work as an incentive. Now, I want to make it clear is that this is going to be fully transparent if it's approved, is the council is going to pass an ordinance or resolution, whatever's appropriate, on how those funds are going to be used, and they're only going to be used when council approves it. So in other words, if Jennifer Conway on behalf of the EDC comes to the council and says that we have this company that meets the definition of the ordinance for an incentive, that's only going to be given to them through an economic development agreement that's approved by the council. So if she doesn't come to us in 2023 for a request, that those funds will sit there, and we'll be fully transparent about where those funds are, whether it's for a capital project or it's for an economic development incentive. Now, obviously, there's always what's the cost going to be, and I can assure you is that obviously council was very, very concerned and had a lot of questions about the possibility of raising the fee. If this 1% is approved based on current collections, it'll cost approximately $1.25 per month per customer, or less than $15 a year to create this fund that would be able to help us with economic development initiatives. And so PSO has a website that they have made available to provide more information. There's been a video that was put out by the mayor and myself. There's going to be a second video that we put out on Thursday that I put out, trying to provide some additional information. And essentially, I've covered just what I've shared with the governing body this evening. Obviously, we have spent a lot of time on this and been very, very diligent in trying to make sure that we put something forward to help us provide reliable, affordable power, and to look at an opportunity to help continue to match the needs of a fast-growing community like Broken Arrow. So with that, Mayor and members of council, I'll be glad to answer any questions.
That's good. You did forget to mention take your loved one to a local
Oh, that's right.
restaurant.
That's right. So the plan is this, is that go vote and then take your loved one to one of the great restaurants we have here in Broken Arrow. Kind of make it a 2-for-1 type deal. I will tell you this, is that obviously I can't tell anybody how to vote. I'm not allowed to do that, but I can share with you the importance of electricity. And I'll address one more thing, Mayor. If someone's asked the question that what happens if it doesn't pass? And the answer to that question is that PSO is not going to stop providing electricity on February 15th. They will continue to provide electricity. We will have to negotiate with them a fee for them to be able to use our right-of-way, because essentially that's what the franchise agreement is. It gives them the right to do so. So should it not be successful, then I'll meet with legal, and then we will get with PSO. We will determine exactly what that reasonable fee would be. And then we will go back to the drawing board, probably do some community surveys to find out why the voters didn't support it. And then we would bring back that initiative at some point, probably later this year, as quickly as we possibly can, once we have the appropriate feedback.
But if they have to pay for right of way, then that'll probably fall back on the customers at some point, I'm guessing.
I believe that that's a possibility. So.
I did forget to mention one thing. On the 16th, Broken Arrow Police Department is holding a fentanyl forum at the Broken Arrow High School. 6 p.m. Is that correct?
Would you have the chief come down and talk a little bit about that,
Oh,
Mayor?
yeah. Yes, please.
I think it's really, really important, especially when we're doing something on the 18th.
Mayor, Council, Mr. City Manager. I hadn't planned to speak on anything tonight, but so the fentanyl forum at the high school at 6 p.m. We've had several forums. This one is geared towards anyone that has a loved one looking for resources, it's general information. We decided it was important to have it at the high school because the campaign One Pill Can Kill. Obviously, there's some experimentation with certain age groups, but right now, currently in America, if you're 18 to 45, the number one cause of death is fentanyl overdose, more than cancer, car wrecks, anything else, because people are thinking they're taking one thing and it's something else. And so this forum is geared towards parents, PTA, anybody else that wants to show up. It's open to the public, and we're going to go through what fentanyl is, why it's rising, what it can look like, treatment options, and how to get your hands on Narcan, which is free. If you have a loved one in your house that's got an addiction problem, it not just covers Narcan covers not just fentanyl, but also any kind of opioids also.
Great. Thank you. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. We do have an executive session. Do you have a
Make a motion to take a brief recess to enter Bama and Beta.
Second?
The motion and second, roll call.
Ford,
Yes.
Hootie,
Here.
Yes.
Parks,
Yes.
Gillespie,
Yes.
Wimpy.
I said yes to Parks.
Yes. Call the Broken Arrow Municipal Authority meeting to order. Roll call.
Ford,
Here.
Hootie,
Here.
Parks,
Here.
Gillespie,
Here.
Wimpy.
Here. Are there any items to be removed from the consent agenda?
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call. There are no public hearings, appeals, presentation, recognitions, or awards, nor are there any general authority business. Any remarks from governing body members? City Manager?
I do have something that at the next meeting, Assistant City Manager Kenny Swab is going to make a presentation of a check from PSO that I think is going to be very substantial. And as a part of that, I do have a recommendation on how I'd like to see council use those funds. So I'm going to let him talk about it next month, but I am very excited about the what they found in terms of their auditing. And so this is a very large sum of money. And there's a project that I know is near and dear to everyone's heart that I'd like to see us basically allocate those funds for.
I bet I know what it is.
All right. Let's see, we have no executive session.
Move to adjourn. Maybe. There.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Roll call. Thank you. Very sweet. Okay, there it is. Okay.
There we go.
Call the Broken Arrow Economic Development Authority to order. Roll call.
Ford,
Here.
Hootie,
Here.
Parks,
Here.
Gillespie,
Here.
Wimpy.
Are there any items to be removed from the consent agenda?
Move to approve the consent agenda?
The motion. Is there a second? Thank you.
What are we?
That works a little slow tonight. It's
Yeah,
not vocast.
It's like totally different
It's not
people.
even that
I
crazy.
that's usually followed by me
Y'all
kicking it
can't
across
see
the
what we
room.
see,
Right.
but it's like.
This computer.
Everybody turn them off and back on.
That's where my hair went, is pulling it out from the computer.
Yes. Okay. Where am I? Presentations, there are none. Okay, general authority business. Item 6A, presentation, discussion, and possible acceptance of the 2022 Broken Arrow Economic Development Corporation Annual Report. Jennifer Conway.
Good evening. Amber Miller, our Talent Attraction and Workforce Development Director, is passing us actually what was in your packet, but we wanted to, we like to make things pretty.
I like pretty.
And also included in your packet is our new grounds for development that we provide to the city of Broken Arrow, to Jennifer Rush and her team.
in attracting and promoting our retail developments. We started a little bit of put the innovation district in here, and we're all looking to further expand this to not just be retail, but also into our other developments as we begin to finalize those. And then also, as we are filling things every day, there is this QR code that we hand out to people that they can scan and get the most updated copy. So just a little thing of that. And I know Jennifer and Norm went to ICSC and had a great time filling up all those spots. But, well, good evening. Thank you for having me, Mayor Wimpy, Vice Mayor, Councilors, Parks, Udis, and Ford. Thank you so much for allowing me to come before you. And last year we did move this a little bit so that I could provide a full report with all of statistics as January closes out for a full 2022. We were, this is the clicker, right? Is this it? Yes, okay, sorry. Is that? There we go. I didn't test this before. The first two slides, of course, as we like to say, and we like to provide this to people who download the oftentimes the question is, who is the EDC compared to the City of Broken Arrow's economic development team? So I like to include these in here. I know the City Council is very familiar with this and our segregation of duties and how we work together. And for the EDC, we focus, of course, on research, recruitment, primary jobs, entrepreneurship, small business development, resources, talent recruitment, workforce development, existing primary business expansions, BR&E for our largest employers, and manufacturers, as well as generating private investment in economic development. So our report will be centering on those key deliverables to the city for this last year. So taking a picture of our economic development for 2022. 691 housing starts, which is slightly down, and we all know why that is. Interest rates and costs, and kind of put a slowdown on that as the Fed wanted to do. Commercial starts, 118, 4,000 new, not new, we really a lot of businesses, 4,000 businesses at the end of the year. Our median household income went up 8%. Our city labor force went up 2% from 2021, which is about 1,000 new entering into the workforce. We have a $1.3 billion in gross regional product from our key areas of healthcare, manufacturing, and government. Over $4 billion of gross regional product. And that takes Broken Arrow's zip codes is where we get that number, and so that does include a little bit of Wagner County, but we have total of over $4 billion in gross regional product. Projected to have a 0.4% higher population growth than Tulsa in the next year. 21% sales tax increase from 2021 and an 8% increase in our median, I mentioned that, household income. It's clear that these are very strong health economic indicators for Broken Arrow. And so I'm going to dive a little bit deeper into the metrics that the Broken Arrow Economic Development Corporation focuses on, which we believe is then in turn a result in the overall economic health in the Broken Arrow. So for the EDC, our Broken Arrow campaign, our goal was 1,000 new primary jobs over 5 years. We surveyed our major employers, and they reported 808 new jobs created in 2022 alone, putting us at 80% of our goal in the first year. So that's really just people who the major employers that we survey, and we work with them. So that's the ones who responded. There was more growth than that, but that is primary job growth. So that's when we talk about that average wage over 55,000 or above. So, there and through our economic development forecast, usually for every primary job you create a little over one new job in the sector of services and support to that job. So if you kind of get an idea of what that growth is for us. These employers also reported a new capital investment of $50 million in this year alone. This does not include the $27 million in the previous slide that have come in commercial improvements in 2022. I didn't know if I mentioned in the last slide, almost 1 million of new square feet retail space added to the Broken Arrow market in 2022. And so we have, if you add that 27 and our 50, that's combined $75 million in new capital investment in Broken Arrow in 2022. We had 4 finished expansion jobs totaling $11.5 million in CapEx and new primary jobs. We closed out our Amplify BA campaign, exceeding our campaign goal to almost match the public investment in the BADC, exceeding our campaign goal of $2.1 million. We visited with almost 700 businesses in 2022 throughout our various efforts, including our BA Blitz. And we also created the new Amplify BA Economic Development Awards, recognizing major economic development projects in the community. Now, we received that $175,000 impact partnership grant, which really you'll see the meat of that work reported to you in this next year. We got it at the end of last year. That's focusing on growing our engineering program, focusing on NSU and pipelines, and working with Tulsa Tech and TCC, as well as our K through 12 Union and Broken Arrow schools to create a stronger pipeline STEMs, but focusing on engineering careers, as well as our $25,000 top grant. So if you go on to business retention expansion is one of our, which that is our back there, Amanda Grace, who is our business retention expansion director. Our projects that were there and there to summarize is we opened 22 new projects, and we currently have 20 open by the year end. So you know we closed 4, so 2 is in that number, and then an additional 2 had started in years previous, just to help you with that math. Currently at those 20 open projects we have right now, 713 potential new jobs and a CapEx of $167 million. We increased our total company meetings by 61%. We are able to celebrate with SimStar and expansion of a 42,000 square foot facility, creating over 80 new jobs. 8 Broken Arrow companies received OEIP grants from Commerce, totaling $915,000 and creating 39 new jobs. 1 BA company received $1.5 million grant for their expansion, and you're going to hear more about that expansion coming in 2023. 3 companies received quality job incentives for job creation, and Project Blue Star was a relocation of 50 employees from another state into one of our employers. They won't let us talk much about it, but it happened. They may have come from Austin, Texas. Project Flame, purchase of 85 acres for a company's future expansion, and we assisted 139 companies with data support services. And through our whole process of talking with our existing employers, no shock here, top 3 issues identified: workforce attraction and retention, supply chain, and inflation. And we'll move on to new business attraction. And that is, am I not? No, next one. I have to hit it twice. I'm getting there. Creek 51, that's one of our major existing facility for Business Park. We submitted it in 21 of our 24 RFPs that we were able to answer in 2022. We have seen a slowdown in RFPs this last in 2022 compared to 2021. That's due from the issues I said, cost of construction, inflation, and the rising rates of interest rates. So currently, Creek 51 has 3 lots sold, 1's under contract, and 6 lots are still available. We did host 2 site selector visits. We did 3 recruitment trips. And here I'd really say, I'm beginning to be a broken record. Our biggest challenge in attraction is facilities, existing facilities. And so was analyzing the regional projects that have been won by Tulsa in our region from 2021 and 2022. Almost all of them were all existing facilities. So that is something we have to look at, is if we're really wanting some big wins. And Creek 51 is kind of a perfect example. Those lots have been sold, not a lot of movement on it yet. And I think it's really the cost of construction, and it's just more economical when you're building, it's about 50 cents on the value of fair market value if you were to turn around and sell it right. To buy that building and move into it is about 50 to 60 cents on the dollar. So it's really hard as a business when you're trying to make that decision on where you're going to locate to make that. So that's kind of something as we look for. Right now we're at 98% occupancy rate in our manufacturing buildings. And so this is really an area that we need to decide what we want to do and what we want to focus on.
Is there any discussion with local builders or developers about building a spec building and that, or one or more, to accommodate this need?
Well, I think yes, and that, Jennifer Rush was just, any developer she talks to, she asks that, and anyone I talk to, I do too. It's really going to come down to that cost product, right? And then what is that person going to pay per square foot? Should they move into it? So there's a whole equation we need to look at, and that's really too when the incentives come into play. We need to look at what is the benefit of incentivizing that and knowing overall what.
And that's why I asked the question.
So, and Jennifer and I are going to talk a little bit about what we're looking forward in 2023. This is a major focus, is really determining what's the council and the EDC's focus, what we want to prioritize. The innovation district is just that, right? But there's also heavy manufacturing, and what do we want to focus on that as well. Our workforce talent and attraction, we assisted 43 businesses with workforce development to fill 260 positions. So that's direct work, working with them about their positions and how to fill them. We assisted 150 job seekers. We had two key notable projects, our automotive industries, which is Swift Recon, and the Baker Hughes plant closure. Those are the two projects we've worked that Amber has worked very heavily on. And the Baker Hughes that's been super successful for us to be able to help do that. I think it's a model. Well, we never want to have to face that again, but should we need to, it is definitely was a model that I feel like should be duplicated. Engaged 5,300 students regarding career awareness in manufacturing and healthcare, and hosted 6 HR roundtables connecting HR professionals with major employers to discuss challenges and opportunities. And our entrepreneurship, this was exciting. We really got to do some meat work in this year. It's really, entrepreneurship is brand new for the EDC. And so in 2022, we launched our entrepreneur meetup meets and greets, where BA entrepreneurs are connecting with one another, telling their stories and sharing resources. We launched Fast Track with the TEDC, where we directly assisting 6 entrepreneurs to assess their plan and launch in a 12-week program. We assisted 24 small firms with resources regarding their startups, and created Startup BA, a web page that has entrepreneurship startup resources. In research and administration, this is not, as some have already said in this present around here, sexy. So it's just the accomplishments, and but it grounds for development and our advocacy issues. Well, one thing we are still working on is the creation of a public improvement district, which I've talked to some of you about. We talked about it on our site visits. That is looking like that is going to have to be a constitutional amendment vote, which makes that a much harder hill to climb. But I'm willing to climb whatever hill we need to give us the resources and more tools in our toolbox. We did advocate against bills that would hinder economic development in 2022. As city manager alluded to, there's several that are popping up again in 2023 that will really hinder economic development incentives, opportunities for TIF districts, and it's really makes Oklahoma non-competitive in economic development. Innovation District, I'm not going to drive deep into that because we do several, we'll be coming back to you periodically about that. We all know about the TOP grant and the 3 site visits. And we have a timeline, and you're going to see moving really, really fast on this in 2023. And I'll talk about that in a second. So it's an incredible, we've had an incredible year in 4 of us, but this year we'll be focusing on the Innovation District, Design, Overlay District, Layout, and Attraction and Marketing. We'll be working with the city to create an incentive policy to be presented to City Council and assist in recruiting new businesses and allowing us to articulate those tools at the local level. So that's oftentimes not having a written incentive policy makes it challenging for the Economic Development Corporation to be competitive in just the RFP process. Because right now we list, contact us, here's examples we've done, as we will always still tailor the incentive process, but it's hard if they can't even know what's the field that we can start from, right? And so that will really be huge for us as we do that. And I think it really we'll see, I would hope to see increase in site visits just from being able to be picked from that packet and not kind of put aside because they don't know what those defined incentives may be out of the gate. But we'll always work to ensure that it makes sense. And that's the EDC's role is to run that analysis and make recommendations and look at the financials and really help and make sure that it's a sound decision, for the city. We'll be creating a small business school toolkit for businesses to utilize on how to start a business in Broken Arrow specifically, with all the contacts, all the processes, to really have a guide from start to finish. And that should be done by the end of the year. We're creating a summer career fair exploration program with our schools. So more to come on that, and we'll be sending you, as Amber, is working with our partners to see what that looks like. Working with Tech, we're working with Broken Arrow Public Schools, and kind of a week where you explore different careers, hands-on type of situation. And we're going to launch a talent attraction website for our primary job employers to utilize, with a focus on engineering and healthcare jobs out of the gate, because that are our primary gap to fill. But it will be we don't have a live in Broken Arrow. We have an old one that is not, but this one will really be focused on attracting talent from outside of the region to Broken Arrow. So that's just a few things we did and have going on. So we're so honored to be able to continue to serve Broken Arrow City Council and our citizens and our businesses in this manner. And I cannot brag enough about the relationship and the strength and the quality of the teams that we have in the entire economic development partnership we have, from the leadership and from Norm and Jennifer and her team. And that and I've said this before, but it's just so seamless and strong, and it's just makes us stronger. So I will take any questions, and thank you for your leadership in creating a great Broken Arrow.
I don't have a question. I've got a couple of comments. One is at Creek 51, I hate to drive by there some, because we spent quite a bit of time on that being a TIF when it was built. And I was hoping something would develop in there before the TIF ran out. And so I was glad you say that some of the lots have been sold. Because I didn't realize that. And I can understand from the economic part of it, not wanting to develop it yet. So that's really encouraging to know that's been sold. I also know that your staff's back there smiling the whole time. And, you bring such energy in here. It's always good to have you here, kind of in the middle of a council meeting, and it kind of sparks everything up because you bring energy.
And I'm dead last.
Not only that, but your counterpart, Jennifer Rush, she's really quiet, and she's always quiet until she gets down here. And then all of a sudden, she becomes just enjoy her job. So I really enjoy seeing people enjoy their job as much as you guys do.
We do, certainly.
Well, looking at everything that's going on, everything that's been done, plus everything that's been, I was in the room when the concept behind the EDC was created. I was there when we developed the bylaws. I mean, it's and the concept of bringing the three organizations together. That was it hadn't been done anywhere, especially in Oklahoma, and I'm not sure nationwide. It was literally just something that to see how vibrant it has become and everything that was done both this year and that's planned. This is what it was created for. This was the entity to preserve these jobs, to grow these jobs, to build the economy. And it was, I think many of the folks who were there at the beginning look at this and are very pleased but surprised, because it was such a, can this work? Yeah. And so thank you and your staff and your boards for making this work, because this is what was envisioned for it to happen.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you. Thanks.
Yeah. Have a motion to accept? I'll make a motion to accept.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Roll call. Remarks by governing bodies, is there any? City Manager?
Yes, Madam Chair, just a few things I want to mention. First off, is an FYI. Earlier today, Jennifer Rush, Jill, and I met with a home builder that does a lot of homes down in the Rose District. And they wanted to visit with us about some clarifications regarding the DROD, the Downtown Residential Overlay District. And they pointed out some areas where they feel like that we need to actually examine the code for some possible opportunities for adjustments that could create some additional development, specifically multifamily in the downtown area. And Jill was great to immediately point out that as a part of the zoning review that's being done, that she's going to set up a developer builders forum in March and invite the home builders that basically do a lot of work in the DROD to give them an opportunity to express comments or concerns that they have about that language. And when we implemented it, similar to what Councilmember Udi talked about just a second ago, you do something, you understand it's a living, breathing document. And so we've been working off of it for, approximately 5 years now. And we want to try to make it to where those folks that want to make those private investments can do it within certain parameters that are good building practices. And so I want to let you know that you may hear from one or two of those. I thought it was a very productive meeting yesterday. They were very happy to have that opportunity. And I think there are some areas based on what was presented that we need to take a look, and as part of the zoning codes when that should be done. So
Real quick, you say draw.
DROD, yeah.
Some people do not understand what that is.
Downtown Residential Overlay District. Okay. Thank you. Secondly, is that last month, we all look at social media, and we have comments, and it's, as I've said before, not everybody is positive all the time. Okay. And I want to point something out because I think it's important, is regarding the Innovation District. And as you know, the council awarded a contract last month for about $750,000 to BKL for the infrastructure design work in connection with the Innovation District. And I want to clarify something on that. That $750,000 contract was to hire a consulting firm to do all of the design work related to the roads, the stormwater, the sanitary sewer, the potable water, curbs, street lighting, essentially all of the infrastructure that is going to be built in order to attract businesses for the district. The estimate for all of that work is about $10 million, maybe closer to 11. And so normally when you're looking at a consulting contract, if you're around the 7 or 8% mark, that's about what you're going to pay for professional services. So I think we got a really good contract for all of that work, especially with the preliminary work that has to be done in order to start laying out all of the streets and putting the infrastructure in. And I also wanted to make it clear that while Ethan Edwards and his team are very, very talented, they don't have the time to be designing the entire layout of the Innovation District. All of them could do it individually, but it would take away from their ability to do the roads, the stormwater, and the other projects that are in the general obligation bonds or part of the utility package. And so I just want to be a clarification that that contract was a good contract price-wise with a really good company, and it's for the total design, which once we get to that, then we will start bidding out the work for the infrastructure. So I didn't know if any had any questions or saw that post, but I want to address that.
Thank you.
And then one more thing, Mayor, I got some exciting news. We executed a contract with Union Pacific to do a conceptual review for a new road at the events park. And council member, to me, that's not only just about additional access. There's potential economic development opportunities if we can get a road going to the north. And so Kenny's been working really, really hard to try to get them to even consider, because we know the challenges when you're dealing with the railroad about road openings and road closures. So we should know in about, I would say 4 months, maybe 5, if that's going to be a possibility. So I'm super excited about this, because if this happens, I think we're in great shape to be able to do a major connection in some areas, especially in an area that Jennifer Conway and I are talking about, where there are lots of potentials for manufacturing and growth in the area along Highway 51.
Absolutely.
So,
that's great news. And I know Kenny has spent several years looking at all the alternatives for that. In fact, sometimes he just hates for me to come into his office because he wants to know if I know any other questions besides that area. But that's the questions I get to me. But I know he's worked on it, so I knew he was getting kind of close. So I'm excited about that.
Well, and anytime you can work out a deal with the railroad, that's impressive. Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, I know.
that's all I have, Madam Chairman.
Okay, thank you. We have no executive session.
To adjourn.
Second. The motion and a second. Roll call. opportunity to have executive session, so I'll call the regular council meeting back into session. To order. Oh, we have to roll call. So sorry. We have to.
Nope.
Well, you make your motion to clear the room.
Yes, sorry.
I'll make the motion to clear the room so we can go into executive session.
Second.
Ford,
Yes.
Moody,
Yes.
Parks,
Yes.
Gillespie,
Yes.
Wimpy.
Yes.